Back on Inside Tennessee, John North requested this history, and take a close look. This is November presidential turnout in Knox County over various years, and digest that for just a moment. You see what we did in 2020, and we wanted to know, John, if this might be a harbinger of a bigger turnout this year in 2024.
Well, full disclosure, a couple weeks ago, Chris and I were talking. We had some new hires that I wanted him to meet, and he said then he was anticipating a pretty significant bump in voter registration ahead of this, which you're going to talk about here in a second. That got me to thinking, I wonder what the numbers show. What's always interesting, and I think you'd probably verify this, is that second-term presidential lower turnout typically. You see that with 08 to 12. Obama reelected in 12, but a lower turnout. 16 kind of a fresh, but not as many as 08, and then 2020, which we all remember mostly for bad reasons, and that was because we had COVID, but you also saw this enormous sort of uptick in 2020 because...
Well, I just think primarily people were fired up, whether, and I think COVID was a driver of that. I certainly don't think it's the sole reason, but I'll be honest with you, it was my first presidential election in charge, and I still have nightmares about it. Here we are 4 years later. Yeah. But we had, and part of that 222,000 that we had, which was far and away a record, over 30,000 more than we had ever had. You had 21,000 people vote absentee by mail. I don't think we'll get anywhere near that number in terms of absentees, but with the increase we've had in voter registrations, I certainly anticipate we're going to go over 222 this time.
And just to wrap it up then, so you're anticipating by October 7, which I think is the deadline to register to vote in this state and in this county, you're thinking you're going to have how many registered Knox Countyans? We're
going to have somewhere, I'm guessing, between 316 and 320.
Highest
like
ever?
That. Oh, easily. And in fact, as of August 1, last election we had about 6 weeks ago, we had 303,000. I think we're going to get... we're already at almost 314, and we still got, 3 weeks to go?
And primarily, I'm sorry, I just want to point this out, and then Susan, primarily you attribute that to population growth.
Absolutely, I do. We're seeing people who have moved in from other states. They're the ones that are wanting to get registered. They're the ones that we're calling earlier this year, starting in July, particularly making sure they're registered, getting their absentee ballots, whatever it is, making sure they're registered, making sure they've got that voter registration card, even though you do not need that voter registration card to vote. I need to share that. You just need a photo ID. Right. A lot of new folks to the state. But nonetheless, yeah, I absolutely attribute that to population.
John calls it the Taylor Swift effect.
Yeah.
I did not call it that.
Since we don't register by party here, you have no idea who these people are. Can you tell gender? By and large, we talked about that earlier. Some
and
people
that's really
have
for
names.
Our viewers. We sort of know the answer.
We don't have gender on your registration.
Yeah, no, we have gender on the registration form, but not on the federal form. There's a number of different ways you can register. Yeah. So we probably only can accurately tell you the gender of maybe 90% of our voters.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because obviously I think gender is going to be a big deal in November. The women, I feel like, are going to turn out in greater numbers, but you can't tell that in this new registration.
Not necessarily. We can give you a pretty good picture of it, but that's something I can certainly provide you.
Yeah, I'd be very curious about that.
So, Chris, any ideas how to engage that younger vote? We talked about that earlier, but it seems to me that the presidential election in November, and there are other important things on the ballot, it will drive a younger percentage up, possibly. Have you seen that in the past, or has it stayed pretty consistent by way of how it's divided up in the pie based on age for presidential elections?
You'll see more of a turnout in November, I think, for younger voters. You will certainly see that. We designated a spot at UT, as we have, I guess, for the last 4 elections, to do some early voting there that final week. And I'll tell you, we always see 1,000+ people a day just from that UT area.
But do you see a corresponding uptick in the 55+ age group as well?
Oh, I think you see it across the board.
Yeah,
certainly across the board.
I guess my question is better. Does the pie change in a presidential election here?
A little bit. It will certainly be a little bit more representative of the population at large. It's still going to skew older because that's just the nature. That's the nature of the beast. Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break on Inside Tennessee. Back with Chris Davis's top 3 things to think about when we're approaching the November election. We'll hear those right after this short break.